Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hello, and welcome to Books from My Library. My name is Kimolisa Mings. I'm a reader, writer. I love to read and I love to write. Now, as a self-published author, I have to ask myself, how are readers going to find my books? And so I got to thinking about the books that are in my library, and here we are, Books from My Library. Now, this week we have 3 books, and we're starting off with Cecilia Ahern. I hope I'm saying her name right. This is Cecilia Ahern's The Gift. And I feel I had come across this book in the bookstore, the local bookstore, Best of Books. And it sounded refreshing. Yes, the cover got me. And I read the blurb and it sounded interesting. And then I read it and it gave me all the feels. And it's one of those interesting things where you come across a book, you love it. You love it. And then years later, you discover, oh, that Arthur wrote that book. And the book, one of her books is P.S. I Love You. And I was like, oh, and I never read the book. The book is here. My sister has the book. I started reading the book, but I think this is one of the few times that a movie negatively impacts the book, because I loved the movie, but then I find myself comparing the movie and be like, so what's the scene based on the movie? But I don't. So I'm gonna have to approach that particular book with and remove the concept of the movie. But anyway, this book I found in the bookstore and I loved it, and I haven't reread it, but I feel I will. I think what I'll do is I'll make it a Christmas thing where I would read it every Christmas, because it's adorable. It was adorable. I remember scenes from it, so yes, I will be reading this again. Now, the next book is The Darkest Child by Dolores Phillips. And this particular book belongs to my mother. She's not getting it. No. It's because it's a special feeling. I felt everything, and although it was an era where it's not a beautiful story about black people, but my God, I was in this story. I felt the characters' turmoil, and it was just in your gut kind of story. And I don't recall each and every aspect, but there are times when it was just like the emotions. Already I feel myself getting all emotional over it. And the story is set in rural Georgia in the 1950s, a time when the opportunities for African Americans were unimaginably different. This is the story of a mother who cannot distinguish love from possession, and a daughter, her darkest child, who longs for a better life. So I would say this book belonged to someone else. And my mom is one of the people that got me into reading, and it's understandable that some of my books in my library actually belongs to her. And I don't think I would force a young person to read this, but this is one of the few African American books based on a time when there was a lot of strife in comparison to now, that I found was beautifully written, and that the author got the reader emotionally invested. So yes, 2 books that I'm like emotional about. Now, the third book is the Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, rest in peace, with Douglas Abrams. And I have to do a build-up. On my journey, yes, there's a journey. Like last time, there's a journey, and I found myself recognizing that I need joy in my life. That is something to pursue. It's not all strife. It's not all plugging away at work or whatever. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to look up books on joy, and I came across this, and I was just like, yes, because it has two people that when they're together, I feel joy just seeing them together. And whenever I saw like clips of them, it would be them being childish, and these men are not young, you know. And I think there's even like pictures of them, like there's a picture of them dancing. Oh, so like their friendship kind of like underlines joy. And at the back of the book there are exercises, there are joy practices that one can do, and it's just a really good book to have. So how did I discover these books? The first book is through a bookshop, and this is why I think bookstores, libraries are important, because one can just simply float. That's the term I'm going to use. One can simply just walk around and discover books that, and their eyes would be caught by books that are out there, and you can discover someone new. And the funny thing is, I think I borrowed a book by the same author, and it's only after I read the book and I enjoyed the book, and I think I was returning the book into the author, and I was just, or on the way back, and I was like, oh, it's the same author. It's kind of like Queen, where the band Queen, where you like that song and you like that song and you like that song, and then later on you realize, oh, it's all by the same band. I see why they're so great. They're one of the greatest bands in the world, you know. So I can understand why she's a really good author. And then you have The Darkest Child, and I found this book through my mother. So we have from some word of mouth from someone else. And then the third book, which is nonfiction, is memoir. It's needing something and seeking it out, you know. And that is how I found these particular books in my library. And it's interesting, because these books they've been living in my library, and I never really thought, oh, how did I come to have them? It's just that I would just like go through books. But there are some, including those two witches, The Darkest Child and The Gift. And I now think on it, there are others that it's just like, it's in my spirit, it's in my gut. It's just like, these are my books. And not so much they're reflections of me, it's just, these are books that I enjoyed. So, those are 3 books from my library. Thank you for reaching to the end, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.